Processes Session 1 Part 3. We're now going to look at jointing steel pipe. At the end of this part of the session, I want you all to be able to state the colour codes of steel pipe, describe the jointing procedures for steel pipe, and state the maximum clip distances for steel pipe. Briefly going to look at stainless steel first. You can use stainless steel for pipe work. It's not used very often, certainly not in domestic properties. You might see it used in hospitals, etc. But you may come across, more likely to come across, stainless steel kitchen sinks or possibly urinals. Cutting stainless steel, well, stainless steel is basically cut the same way as copper. You could either use a hacksaw or a wheeled cutter. The main body of this section is looking at low carbon steel, also known as mild steel. It's made out of iron with a small amount of carbon mixed in. So it's an alloy, it's a mixture, a metal mixed with something else. There's three different grades of low carbon steel: light, medium and heavy, and we need to know the colour codes for each and a little bit of key information about it. So light excuse me, has thin walls and a large bore, and the colour code is brown. Medium has a medium bore, colour code is blue, and the heavy has thick walls and a small bore, and the colour code is red. Light LCSB is used normally only by electricians for conduit. Plumbers, we might use the blue stuff or the red stuff, the medium or the heavy, possibly from heating pipe work, maybe for gas pipe work. Generally speaking, we wouldn't use it for the supply of hot or cold water because it's likely to corrode. So LCS is classed as an alloy. It's a mixture of metals, so in this case iron and carbon. Because the high content of iron, when exposed to water, it will rust, which means that we shouldn't use it for carrying wholesome water, or hot water either for that matter, unless it gets specially treated, and that treatment is called galvanization. We might use normal LCS pipe for heating or gas pipes. The external diameter of all of the grades is actually going to be the same as each other, but the external diameter of the steel pipes are bigger than that of copper. The flow rates from the steel pipe would be less than that of copper, and that's because it's got a rough internal bore. If you ever put your finger on the inside of a large bore steel pipe, you'll actually feel it's sort of got bobbles and sort of indentations and stuff in it, which would actually sort of cause a higher frictional resistance and slow down the water flow through it compared to, for example, a copper or a plastic pipe. Jointing steel. Well, generally speaking, most of our joints on steel pipe and low carbon steel are done through threaded joints, though there are compression joints available, and actually more recently they've actually produced some press fit joints for steel as well. Excuse me. So LCS compression fittings, they're much more expensive than the threaded fittings, but they do save a lot of time and a lot of effort. And essentially the jointing process is exactly the same as the copper one. You just need some sort of spanners and you tighten it up. What's going on inside it is a little bit different. You can see it's there's a rubber O-ring there compared to the copper or brass O-ring for copper, with a grab ring here. So the grab ring, as it gets tightened, the grab ring gets squashed onto the pipe, and that's what stops the pipe popping out. And then the rubber O-ring here keeps the excuse me, keeps the keeps the pipe watertight. Okay, you can thread. Excuse me. So apologise for that, guys. I'm a little bit under the weather. You can thread steel pipe using either an electric threading machine or by hand using stocks and dies. So the jointing procedure for threading, you'd sort of check the pipe threads first after it's been threaded. Check that they're clean, check they're not damaged. If necessary, either rethread them or give them a clean up with a wire brush. And then before you start the jointing procedure, put it in a pipe vise or a chain vise. Chain vise is the one that's sort of shown here, and that will hold the pipe in position as you make the joint. You put PTFE onto the pipe threads. You shouldn't use hempen paste anymore. That's not allowed. So we put PTFE onto the threads, and then you'd start to screw the fitting onto the end, essentially. So you put it on as far as you can by hand, and then use pipe wrenches or something similar to tighten up the fitting the rest of the way on. So here's a couple of fittings we're going to look at. Here we've got a compression elbow, a union here, an equal T here, threaded equal T, and threaded end cap. Just a few selection of fittings just to look at that might come up in your test. Okay, and finally we're going to look at clipping steel pipe. Because it's stronger than copper, we actually need less clips on it. So for 1/2 inch steel pipe, which has got a 15mm internal bore, the maximum clip distance horizontally is 1.8 and vertically is 2.4. And for horizontally for 3/4, and also for 1 inch, 20mm and 28mm, they're both the same. Horizontal maximum clip distance is 2.4, vertical clip distance is 3 meters. It's very much worth committing these to memory, because occasionally they might come up. The copper ones are the ones that they tend to ask about most, but they do occasionally ask about steel pipe as well. Okay, so now it is time for your task.